So my sister, she keeps using me and using me for free babysitting. I mean, yeah, I get it. I stay at home, I work from home, I have some free time. The kid's like 14, it's not that big of a deal, they can watch anyway. That's not the point. That's so beyond the point. I'm at the point where I just feel like I'm being taken advantage of. She doesn't pay me to do it, which once again isn't such a big deal because she's family. But she won't even pay for their food. I have to come out of pocket and make extra dinner just for them because there's more mouths to feed, and I don't think it's right. Well, you know what I told her that, and you won't believe what she said. I'm 29, female, I work from home, and I've been looking after my niece when she's not in school for my sister. The problem is my sister's new husband came with 3 children of his own who have somehow been lumped into my babysitting duties, and it's getting a little expensive to keep up with 4 kids pretty much every day. My sister doesn't seem willing to accept it. That's pretty much the summary of the situation, so I'll put the long post warning here instead. Warning: this is going to be a bit of a long read. I'll do my best not to get rambly, but I'm not making any promises. So, I've been helping my sister Claire out with childcare pretty much since my niece Reagan was born, back when I was in high school. It was easy enough to just chill with baby Reagan, and it was actually kind of heartbreaking to head off for college for 4 years. By the time I got back, Claire and Reagan's dad were divorced, and my sister was single momming it, so I was more than happy to sign back up as a de facto babysitter. That never really changed from there. During the whole pandemic thing, I landed a sweet work from home job, which also meant that I went from babysitter to full on daycare service. The moment Reagan is done with school for the day, she's with me. We have dinner together, and then my sister picks her up at around 6 or 7. So from like 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., Monday to Friday, Reagan's with me. I love that kid with my whole heart. Part of the reason I live where I do is because this house is really close to Reagan's school and is actually walking distance to the high school she's going to go to in a couple of years. I absolutely do not mind looking after her. I never have and I never will. She's a great kid, she's smart, independent, and very easy to look after. Reagan is not really the problem in this situation. See, the problem is actually that somewhat recently my sister got remarried. Ben, her new husband, is a nice enough guy from what I've seen of him, but he came into the marriage with 3 children from his previous marriage. 7-year-old Danny, 4-year-old Cleo, and 3-year-old Blair. I knew the new additions would be a change to the dynamic, but I didn't realize just how much my sister was going to expect me to contribute to that dynamic. Essentially what happened is, now I'm in charge of looking after all 3 of my sister's stepchildren after school. The 2 girls are both in preschool, and Danny the boy is in 2nd grade. My sister and the other parents have some kind of carpool system going on, so they get dropped off at my place between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. every day. Reagan's school has a shuttle bus system for the surrounding neighborhood, so she takes that here on her own, and then Claire will show up after dinner once she's done with work to take them all home. So every single afternoon for the past few months, my home has turned into a daycare center. Initially, I didn't say anything because I figured that Claire was just getting settled into the whole blended family dynamic. I mean, I get it. Jumping from 1 kid to 4 has to be hard, and I can't imagine it's easy to find trustworthy childcare for the little ones especially. But I really did not think that I was going to be her permanent childcare solution. But weeks have turned into months, and now I'm still watching 4 kids almost every day. And let me be clear, taking care of one 12-year-old is worlds away from looking after 3 younger children. Reagan is well-behaved and relatively independent. The 3 little ones are, as little ones tend to be, less well-behaved and less independent. I feel it's prudent to remind anyone reading this that I work from home, emphasis on the work part. I have a full-time job that is not caring for my sister's children. My hours have some flexibility, but generally speaking, I've got a pretty average 9 to 5, which means from 2 p.m. onwards, I'm pulling double duty by trying to get my work done and also mind the children. Reagan usually used the hours I was working to get her homework done and then relax a little. A 12-year-old is more capable of occupying themselves for a few hours while there's an adult in the other room, and a 7-year-old and 2 kids under 5 are very much not capable. I don't even blame the children, really. They're kids, but juggling work and making sure they don't accidentally hurt themselves has been an ordeal and a half. You can imagine how overwhelming that's been and how it's been affecting my workload. I constantly feel drained, and I can feel myself starting to resent their presence here, which isn't fair to the kids since they're not the ones calling the shots, and especially not fair to Reagan, who hasn't done anything wrong. My waning patience aside, the cost is also becoming an issue. Obviously, I've never charged my sister anything for looking after Reagan. She's practically my kid too, and she's not overly fussy, so it's not a big deal to prepare a second portion of whatever I'm having. Feeding one kid is very different from feeding 4 kids. Kids eat a lot, so much that it's been cutting into my budget in a way I haven't been able to ignore, and trust me, I would rather have ignored it than make a big deal. So, to be clear, I decided to ask my sister to chip in for groceries so I can continue feeding her children, whom I look after every day. That's it. I mean, I didn't ask her to pay me for looking after them, or anything like that. Just a quick, hey, do you think you could cover the cost of feeding them dinner and snacks every single school day? Tell me why this woman flat out said no, as if I was asking for some unreasonable amount of money. Her logic is that I'm already home, I'm already making dinner for myself and Reagan. It isn't a big deal to just let the little ones have some too, which is a little ridiculous, considering I obviously can't be feeding a 3-year-old the same thing I usually make for myself and Reagan. My attempts to explain this to my sister resulted in her going into a whole spiel about family supporting family and how I shouldn't be expecting compensation, which I'm not, though she wouldn't hear that. The conclusion I've reached is that there are 2 paths forward from here. Either I accept that my sister is never going to think that covering my grocery bill for feeding her children is reasonable and continue moonlighting as a daycare, or I stand my ground on this and make it crystal clear that I can't keep looking after the kids the way things are going. Currently, I'm leaning toward telling Claire to get lost, but I know that's a one-way ticket to never seeing Reagan again, so I've decided to be a little diplomatic about how I break it to her. The issue is that it's very likely Claire's going to take an all-or-nothing approach and decide that if I don't look after all of them, I don't get any of them, meaning I'm essentially abandoning Reagan, who hasn't done anything wrong. I don't know. What should I do? Update 1. Hey guys, can you quickly help me decide if this is a little insane or not? A few weeks ago, I posted a whole rant about my sister Claire and how she was expecting me to look after her daughter, whom I adore, and do not for a second mind looking after, and her 3 stepchildren, who I have nothing against, but they're very young, and it's a little overwhelming. The issue with Claire not wanting to contribute to the grocery bill incurred by providing free daycare and dinner services was not going to solve itself, so I bit the bullet and told her that if this was how things were going to continue, I could not keep looking after her kids. It went about as well as you would expect. Neither of us is the yelling type, but it got close, and then she just ended the conversation there. I thought, hey, give the woman some space and let her process on her own time. As annoyed as I am about the whole thing, I can see how it would be a bit of a betrayal from her point of view, so I didn't want to interfere with her thought process and just left her to it. My logic was that even though she cut the conversation off, the point had gotten across, right? Well, no, it wasn't. The day after our conversation, it was a Sunday, so the kids were not meant to be over anyway. Monday rolls around, and like clockwork, all 4 kids arrive at my door after school. I figured maybe Claire had not updated the carpool group or whatever and let them in, obviously, but I shot her a text about it. And when she came to pick them up at 7 line, I told her to let whoever was in charge of the carpool know. She was dismissive, but again I figured she was just processing and a little upset with me still. Well, yesterday it was the same thing again. This time I called Claire multiple times, all of which went to voicemail. When she showed up after dinner, I told her I was serious and it could not happen again. I know her patterns well enough to know that she was going to try to dig in her heels and strong-arm me into sticking with the status quo. I had some hope that she wasn't going to when I spoke to her initially, but clearly she was more than happy to try anyway. Early this morning, she shows up at my house, drops the kids off, and leaves. No warning, no discussion, not even a hello, how do you do? She just rang the doorbell, dumped all four of them on my doorstep, and took off at 8:30 in the morning. According to the kids, it's a snow day, so none of them are in school. Once again, I'm not angry at the children, but the audacity of my sister to not only ignore me, saying that she could not keep sending them here after school, but to try to one-up me by sending them here on a snow day. Unbelievable. What's more is that this woman goes on to completely ignore every call and text telling her that I would not be looking after them. So again, I had two choices. Either accept my sister's attempts at strong-arming me into doing whatever she wants, or stick to my guns. I did what every younger sibling in the history of ever does. I called her mother and gave her a quick rundown of the situation, most of which she already knew because complaining to my mother is my favorite form of therapy, and asked her if she could take the kids. Bless my mother's heart, she came and collected them at like 9:30, so I was able to have a mostly uninterrupted workday for the first time in months. She says that she just took them right back to Claire's house, and thank goodness Reagan has a key, so they just stayed there the whole day with my mother looking after them. I'm fresh off the phone call with Claire, who was pretty much raging at me for abandoning her children and humiliating her because our mother tore into her for dumping her kids on me. I actually don't understand how she thinks I'm the one who abandoned her kids when she quite literally left them on my doorstep and just left. I don't care how she's going to twist this, though. If she thinks that she can be stubborn, well, two can play that game. Update 2. The woman's trying to get me fired from my job, and I don't know if this is some twisted scheme of hers to free me up to look after the kids, or some half-baked revenge scheme my sister thinks is going to end in her favor. But this is a line that I didn't even know she could cross. But here we are. A lot of you predicted that she would not let up on trying to strong-arm me. You're right, it wasn't unexpected, but I stuck to my guns and refused every time to turn myself back into her free daycare service. I think she thought that because I always gave in to whatever she wanted when I was younger, then if she kept it up, I'd eventually give in now too. But I don't think she's consciously realized that I'm not her kid sister waiting at her beck and call anymore. Every time I refused, she tried to double down, but I kept refusing. I would have hoped that the day it clicked in her head that she could not bully me into childcare would be a good day. Unfortunately, I failed to understand that my sister is actually a little bit unhinged. The woman made a Facebook post calling me out for abandoning her children after her, in her words, abusing them. She said she was horrified to discover that not only have I been neglecting my duties when her children are in my care by not paying attention to them and leaving them to look after themselves, but I've been outright abusing them by refusing to feed them and leaving them out in the cold. So I've been neglecting, abusing, and starving their kids, apparently, something that's never come up in all these years that I've been looking after Reagan. See, my sister was so horrified by what she discovered that she had to go out of her way to tag my employer in the post and ask if it was me being the kind of person they wanted representing the company in any capacity. See, the thing is, like most sane human beings, I don't actually use Facebook. I don't have it installed on my phone, and I only have an account because I made one when I was a kid and never deactivated it. I didn't see my sister's post. Do you know who saw my sister's post? My employer, who she tagged. I found out about the post when my supervisor gave me a heads up and told me that HR was going to be asking to set up a meeting. I had to reset my Facebook password because I don't even remember the login, which thankfully had practically no likes or comments because it had only been a couple of hours. Still, I don't consider it forgivable in any way whatsoever. Well, luckily, our mother forced her to take it down, but the damage had already been done, hadn't it? I have a meeting scheduled with HR tomorrow to discuss the post. So not only do I have to deal with random family members texting me about the post they saw on Claire's account, but now I have to explain personal family drama to my supervisor and human resources, and have it potentially ruin my career. I can't even begin to understand what her logic is behind any of this. Get me fired so I have nothing better to do than look after her kids. How on earth does she think I've been affording to look after her kids in the first place? They ate dinner here every single day, and I fed them an after-school snack every day. And anybody with any experience with kids knows that they're ravenous at the best of times, let alone after school. Literally all I asked for was for her and her husband to cover the grocery bill, not my entire bill, just chip in for the portion that went to feeding her children. The absolute lunacy of jumping from that to sabotaging my reputation and career is insane. I will not be bullied by a 30-year-old woman lashing out like she's lost all sense. Update 3. I'll start with something positive, though nothing in this update is altogether negative for me. As it stands, I had my meeting with HR and my supervisor, and by the grace of God, they were all level-headed, reasonable people who understood the situation once I explained it, and were more than happy to write the whole thing off as a misunderstanding, especially since the post had already been deleted, and I was not actually an abuser. It wasn't especially hard to go and convince them of my version of events since my supervisor was well aware that I looked after the children. He'd heard them over my microphone more than once during meetings, and sometimes I had to step away to do all sorts of stuff for the little ones. So my sister's claims of me being neglectful were brushed over quickly. I'm touched that so many of you seem genuinely worried about everything with my job, though, but I'd say everything turned out okay in the end. To be clear, okay did not mean that I was going to just let things go. Things were okay at work, but the post Claire made was public, and as little interaction as her post got. My family members and some mutuals saw the post. I wasn't going to allow lies about me to continue floating around, so I decided to fight fire with fire and make a Facebook post of my own. I came with receipts and timelines, and laid everything out bare. I actually copied and pasted some of my posts from here in the past and edited it all down a bit. So I can say, some good came out of posting all of this here. The Cliff Notes version of my post is how I've been looking after Reagan for years, how I've been looking after Claire's stepchildren for months, and how I've never even asked for anything other than help with food costs, and how Claire tried to bully me for it. Given the lack of interaction on my sister's post before it was taken down, I didn't really expect much. I just wanted to set the record straight. So even if nobody commented or liked it, it was fine. I mean, but so many people commented and liked it, I almost lost my mind. My best guess is that my family had probably been gossiping a little about Claire's post, because tons of our relatives and mutual friends flooded the comments of my post supporting me. There's something else that came out of my post. Ben, Claire's husband, apparently had no idea what was going on. This is secondhand info from my mom, but she's a good source generally. Ben was clueless about how Claire was handling childcare. Obviously, he knew that I was the one looking after the kids, but he didn't know all the stuff that had gone down in the past few weeks. And get this, he's been giving Claire money to give me this entire time, money I've never seen a cent of. According to my mom, the word divorce was thrown around a little to top it all off and make this absolutely officially the worst week in Claire's life, probably ever. Her ex-husband Anthony reached out to me after my post. He's not as involved in Reagan's life as he would like to be, because of the custody agreement that was settled ages ago, but he loves his daughter, and he wanted to know every little thing that had been happening and involving her. I think he might want to push for more custody. It's a guess, but I think I'm on the money here, and I think I might support it if it came down to it. I haven't heard a word from my sister since I made the post, which is just as well for me, but I've spoken to Reagan just to reassure her that she has no fault in any of this, and I love her.